We're here at Gamescom catching up on Wildstar, and sorry about the pun, but it's been out in the wild for a while now. You've obviously announced the fact that you're going free to play, and that is bringing some changes to the game. Can you just give us an overview of what kind of things you're sort of touching up on with this switch?
Well, we decided to switch over from subscription to free-to-play strictly because we wanted to get more players playing the game, right? We came to the realization that, a $60 box and a $15 month fee had really, people wanted to play it, people were talking about it, people were on our own forums saying, hey, if this game was free, I'd play it. So free play was actually not as difficult a decision but we knew there was a lot of work to do to get it to free to play. A lot of the stuff we've done that's going to be in that free to play build is we've done a pass on the entire tutorial, right? We knew that when we cast a wider net, there's going to be a lot more players coming in that may go, oh, I like sci-fi, or I like that art style, but I don't play MMOs generally, so we added a new novice tutorial. So there's actually 3 experiences now, a novice tutorial, an intermediate tutorial, and kind of like an advanced thing, which just lets you skip and get right down to the planet. We did a pass on all the dungeon content, we did a pass on all the story content. We've pretty much done a pass on all the content in the game to make sure there was more of a gradual progression. The focus has been on accessibility, right? Accessibility is key in a transition like this, so we want to make sure when new players come in that they'll have an easier time understanding the way we do everything in the game.
So, I mean, you're far from the first MMO to make this switch. A lot of them have done it before. Have you looked at sort of examples from the past to see what they've done right and what they've done wrong, and sort of in sort of doing this yourselves?
We absolutely have. It's kind of one of the reasons when we announced it about 4 months ago that we're going to go free to play sometime in the future. People question that, say, why would you give that much lead time in that? We wanted to do it because we pride ourselves on listening to players and actually making changes in the game. So it made no sense whatsoever to do a free to play transition where we weren't going to get players actually testing it and giving us feedback, saying, oh, hey, this is too hard. I mean, most of the stuff you see change in the game today, a year after launch, has been strictly based on player feedback. It allows us to, get kind of a leg up on where everybody else is. But no, we did look at different games. I won't name names, but we looked at games that had done things where they took things away from players coming in, saying, hey, if you want that, you need to buy it. We wanted to go with a tactic of, we're not going to sell power, we're going to sell convenience and customization, and we're going to try not to be, overly painful about that kind of stuff, right? We want the players to want to play the game because it's a great game, and if they want to spend their money, spend it however you like. We just want to give them the options on how to do it.
So one thing that is, the player base, the existing player base, what's the reactions been like? Because, I mean, there are 2 sides of this. Yes, there's more players that are potentially going to come in, but there's also some people who are a little bit conservative about any sort of change to their game.
No, absolutely, and that's actually an interesting point, because when we announced it about 4 months ago saying, hey, we were going to do this free-to-play transition, we expected there'd be some little bit of backlash, and there would be people who are like, well, I'm just going to stop subbing, if it's going to go free-to-play, or I'll sub back when it comes free-to-play. But strangely enough, we actually saw a big bump in subscriptions, because we announced at the same time that we wanted to make sure that we were doing right by our players who'd stuck with us all along. So we're going to add this loyalty system, pretty chunky loyalty system. So if you've been with us from the beginning, or if you started last month, that every month that you were with us, you're going to get all these bonus items. So we actually saw a pretty big spike in subscriptions where people are like, oh, I want to play free to play, but I also want all that stuff. So I'm going to get in there. So it's actually been pretty good. The press was receptive to it, and the players, again, the proof's in the pudding. We got more players today than we did then, so we're doing something.
So, and of course, switch to free-to-play is just not something that you do because, all right, we'll switch to free-to-play and leave it. Right. It's also sort of opening up to new players and opening up to new content and things that you want to bring out. So what kind of news do you have for players, what you're bringing out in the future?
Well, we pretty much fell into a cadence of every 3 months we put out new content, whether it be zones, whether it be, dungeons, whatever it is, we do about a 3-month. And that's where our plan is to continue to do that, right? Providing the content for players as we have. We're going to have intermediate drops for stuff, MTX stuff like mounts and costumes, things of that nature. But no, with the free-to-play transition, when we release that, we're going to have a new story instance. We have new quests, new public events, new world bosses, new PvP zone. I mean, we're doing a lot of that stuff because we want players to come back. So if you had played the game originally, you're like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff that's being launched there. It's more of a draw to come back, and that's going to actually fall right on our, right around the time frame where we're going to release new content.
A lot of things there. Can you go into any detail on that new content?
Well, we have one of the world story instances, right? In our game, we wanted to make sure that we weren't, in a lot of other MMOs, the big story bits are told in like raids and dungeons, except while a lot of people play them, not everyone plays those. So what we did in our MMO was take those story bits and put them in what we call world story instances. So regular Joe guy can just pick it up and play it by himself and see what's happening in the story. Players gave us feedback saying we wish you did more of them and earlier, so we took the ones we had, stretched them, pulled them down into the game, added a level 15 one. That's the one that's going to be in that drop, a level 15 world story instance that kind of introduced the world story at a sooner time. In the tutorial, we added a bunch of new cinematics and another bits and pieces that introduced some of the characters from the world story very early in the game. So a brand new player will be introduced to pretty much the integral person in this world story at the very beginning and explain to them how, instead of having to discover at level 35 why they were chosen, they're literally chosen in the opening cinematic, so new players will really get the understanding of what that is.
That sounds like a pretty massive change to the narrative.
Chad Moore, who's our creative director, he signs off on all that stuff. It is a pretty chunky change, but I don't think it takes anything away from the story. I think it actually adds a little bit to it, and that's just one part of a lot of things. We've redone the entire statistics in the game, right? Because we had brutality gives you assault power, which makes this character powerful, but the Esper gets its assault power from Moxie. So players were like, hey, I don't know what any of these things mean. We pulled them all out. Talk about a chunky thing. We re-itemized the entire game and put all new stats in the game that are just, assault power, health. Like that way a casual player can come in and go, I'm a warrior, I know I need to kill things, so I need assault power. I know I need hit points, so I need health. They can play the entire game like that. But if a player who has more stuff going on, if they want to know more about those things, we have all kinds of great secondary stats that they can actually put into the game. So there's been a ton of work, and we're still doing it right now.
All right. Speaking of that, wrapping up, do you have sort of a time frame in mind? You sort of hinted at that it's pretty soon.
Closed beta is going to be happening very, very, very soon. I'm not sure what the date is going to be for that, but it's right around the corner. And again, we want players' feedback. We want them to get in and tell us what they think, so that we can iterate on it and make sure it's the best possible free-to-play transition that anyone's ever seen.
And I guess you will be able to find out when exactly that happens on Gamereactor. Thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.